What is up? GoodMicWork commentaries back at you with episode 479. I am your host, Greg Morgan. We have got a lot to talk about today. Holy shit, we have got so much to talk about. Of course, we've got the Royal Rumble coming up in just a couple of days. You will hear my full predictions for the Royal Rumble pay-per-view coming up later in this commentary, along with predictions for NXT TakeOver Philly as well. I'm also going to elaborate a little bit more on this past Monday's 25th anniversary Raw show. We'll talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly as it relates to that crazy debacle. I'll also offer some thoughts and give a quick recap of the Go Home Rumble SmackDown Live that took place this past Tuesday, and give you guys the latest details and all the latest news on the Enzo Amore situation and some of the newer developments as it relates to that story. And then, of course, the big news that broke on Thursday. It has been announced. It is official. Vince McMahon is bringing back the XFL. So we're going to talk about all of that in this episode, and I'm going to try to get through it as quickly as possible, because with the Royal Rumble coming up in just a couple of days, this podcast is going to be obsolete probably within 48 to 72 hours. So before I get into everything here, I just want to give you guys a couple of quick announcements, let you know what my schedule is going to be for Royal Rumble weekend. I have mentioned this before in previous commentaries. My schedule has not changed. As of right now, I will not be home to watch NXT TakeOver on Saturday. So I'm going to watch it late that night, and I seriously doubt I will have time to get any sort of a review of that show up before the Royal Rumble. So during the Royal Rumble, I will be home. I'm off all day on Sunday. I will be live tweeting throughout the entire Royal Rumble pay-per-view, so please join me at GoodMicWork on Twitter. Immediately following the Royal Rumble pay-per-view, I will be up live on YouTube. We will discuss the show. Episode 480 will be a live episode. You guys know that I have moved to the live pay-per-view review formats now. It's the only podcast that's been replaced with a live show, and that is my pay-per-view reviews. I want to get up right away when it's fresh in my mind and talk to you guys about it live, and it's been a lot of fun. So episode 480 this coming Sunday, immediately following the Royal Rumble, will be live on YouTube, and I will also discuss NXT TakeOver as well. And one final bit of kind of exciting news. I have finally moved on over to ProWrestlingTees.com. If you would like to purchase any merchandise, I've got a few t-shirt designs up on the website now. My online store is officially open. I'm about 2 or 3 years overdue getting on Pro Wrestling Tees, because as most of you know, I was handling all of my merchandise myself. I had t-shirts printed and made, and I was selling them on my website, and I sold a good amount of them, but it was just something that I didn't want to keep track of. I didn't want to worry about missing an order or screwing something up. So finally I decided to hand things off to the fine folks over at Pro Wrestling Tees. So check it out. The link is in the description below. I think I've got 3 t-shirt designs up there right now, and I'm working on a few more, so there will be more to come in the future. But if you would like to support the show, along with your Patreon options or your PayPal donations on my website, or your super chats during live streams, you can now also purchase t-shirts through ProWrestlingTees.com. So please take a look at my online store, and again, the link is in the description below. Let's move on now to what we need to talk about. There's so much to get into, and I feel like I should start right with the big news of the week. And it's not wrestling related. I mean, it kind of is. But given the fact that we have Royal Rumble coming up in just a couple of days, I cannot believe I am opening up with football news. But it has been announced. It is official. Vince McMahon has released a big statement. He did this big video about the relaunch of the XFL. We had speculated on this for a while when Vince McMahon started that media company or whatever and put all that money and invested into that. And it was kind of rumored that they were going to explore all sorts of entertainment options, including professional football, and a lot of people were saying that a version of the XFL is going to be brought back. I thought originally that they would not call it the XFL, just because the name just reminds everybody of what a horrible debacle that whole thing was. And I've always been in the camp of people that said, if things would have been done differently, the XFL did stand a chance. There is some things I think that they could have done to make the league last longer than it did. I didn't think it was that horrible of an idea on paper, even though the thing was completely botched. Everything that they did was botched from day one, and I think Vince McMahon wants to right those wrongs. I mean, every time Vince tries to have some sort of outside venture outside of WWE, it always fails. The XFL, the WBF, God, there's something else as well. But he never really succeeds in these type of ventures. But now, I mean, at his age and where he is in his life, and all of the lessons he's learned from the mistakes he's made. Maybe he really wants to give this XFL thing another shot and make it work this time. I did watch Vince McMahon's little video. The one thing that people are taking away from this, and everybody is talking about on Twitter, which is really funny, is when Vince McMahon said that fans don't want to sit through a 3.5-hour football game, which is just hilarious because we as wrestling fans have to sit through 3 hours of bullshit on Raw every single week. And for somebody like me who has a podcast, and I have an obligation to watch these shows and know the results so I can talk about them, I mean, it's torture sometimes. Live tweeting with all of you is the only thing that keeps me sane during it. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot going on with football right now, too. And this is also a very political issue, don't forget, because the NFL's got a ton of people pissed at them because of fucking anthem protests and shit like that. That's something that I really don't concern myself with. I don't care. I feel as an American, you have the right to protest no matter where or when it is. And some people say, oh, that's not the right platform. Well, you can protest anywhere. That's just my belief. So the anthem thing doesn't bother me personally as much as it bothers everybody else. But for people who have, a stick up their ass about the NFL right now, and plus we have to watch the fucking New England Patriots win every goddamn year, and now you start hearing people say the NFL is rigged and shit. I do not believe that. As much as I hate Tom Brady and the New England Patriots, the NFL is not fucking rigged. But regardless, with all of the issues right now, you have a lot of disgruntled NFL fans. So this is probably actually a good time for Vince to bring back the XFL because you got some pissed off fans that might be looking for alternatives here. So from a business standpoint, this might actually be a good idea. I don't know what the hell to make of all of this yet. They are planning for a 2020 debut here, so they got about 1.5 years or so, or 2 years, to promote this thing and get it together and assemble it. And they already have a few rules and a few guidelines set out as far as some of the features of the returning XFL, and those are going to be just 8 teams. So they're starting small with just 8 teams. There's going to be 40-man rosters, a 10-game season that begins in January. Also a 2-hour game time goal, so they're trying to shorten these games down, possibly even eliminating half times and things like that. So they're looking for just a 2-hour game here. And also, any player with a criminal record will be precluded from playing. That and a couple of other random rules have already been announced and set for this thing. And as far as what I saw, and I'm kind of reading through some of the notes here because this news just broke right before I was about to record this commentary. So I only have a limited amount of news stories that I have read. And I have not read about any sort of a TV deal, at least from what I can see. So it's interesting, though, because you got to think about all the football personalities out there. The first names that I thought of right away was Tim Tebow and Johnny Manziel, and maybe players like that have already been booted out of the NFL for various reasons or whatever, but still have a personality. And for them to come in, that could help boost ratings. You throw Tim Tebow on an XFL team, people will actually tune in to watch that. I truly believe that. So it's just too early. I mean, this news was announced an hour ago as of the recording of this commentary, and I'm going to have to wait 6 or 7 hours before I even edit this because as soon as I'm done here, I got to head to work. So this news was literally just announced right before I'm about to record this. So I can't completely shit on it or praise it yet because we just don't know. It's way, way, way too early. I'm just surprised that the announcement actually happened. I can't believe that this is happening already. So very interesting turn of events here. Big news. I would imagine this time around, WWE is going to have a lot less influence on the XFL. Last time, there was so many WWE personalities on the show, in the commentary booth, all over the place. They were plugging the hell out of it on Monday Night Raw, and I'm sure we're still going to see that. I'm sure we'll see some wrestlers wearing XFL jerseys and shit like that, in a couple of years, but I don't think it's going to be as major or as elaborate as it was before as far as the involvement of WWE personalities in the XFL. You might have some here or there, but I think initially they need to try to separate themselves from the WWE as much as they possibly can, as to not draw too many comparisons. Oh, is the XFL rigged? Is it fake like wrestling? And all that shit that you're going to hear from the asshole fans out there that might not accept this or whatever. So I don't know. To be completely honest with everybody, I really don't care if this succeeds or fails or not. I mean, at this point, I'm totally indifferent. If it succeeds and it's a big deal, great. If it fails and Vince McMahon embarrasses himself again, fine. I really don't care at the end of the day. So I'm just kind of curious and interested to see how this whole thing plays out. So feel free to let me know all your opinions on the XFL and this big announcement in the comments below. And as of right now, I haven't even gotten a very good look on social media as far as what the reactions from the fans are and the public. So it should be interesting to see how WWE begins their advertising campaign and how they start moving forward with promoting the XFL and hiring coaches and hiring players and where the teams are going to be. I'm sitting here in San Diego with no football team because the Chargers left. There's 2 NFL teams in LA. Are you going to put an XFL team there? Probably, because LA is a huge market. But if the XFL wants to give football back to the fans, that's what Vince McMahon said, they should definitely come to San Diego, because the Chargers kind of got ripped away from the city, and there's a lot of angry football fans in the city. And now these people have turned on the San Diego Chargers, and they want them to lose every game. And everybody here hates the idea of the LA Chargers. So if you bring an XFL team in here and call them the San Diego whatever the fucks, then that would be interesting. I might actually go to a game. Qualcomm is sitting here completely empty. They use it for some soccer games and some college football games and shit. Otherwise, that arena is available, so they should come down here. Anyway, there's my thoughts on the XFL. That was some huge news. I was laughing, too, because I had so many notes for this show. There was already a ton of shit to talk about, and then this announcement of the XFL breaks, and I'm like, great, now here's another 15 minutes added to my commentary. So anyway, let's move on now to some wrestling news, and I also want to start, before we get into Raw and SmackDown, talking about Enzo Amore and the latest developments in that whole situation. Of course, Enzo was released a few days ago amid all the allegations of rape and whatever took place with him and what appears to be a pretty batshit crazy girl back in October. Now, WWE immediately suspended Enzo when they heard this news that the police were involved and Enzo was being investigated for rape. But then, when the media really got a hold of this and it started going viral and trending and all of that, WWE made the decision to release him. And I initially defended that, and I was like, hey, look, this is rape. You might just have to get the guy out of here. Who's to say you can't hire him back? You don't even know what WWE knows. They might know more than us. And maybe when Triple H or whoever called Enzo to let him know that he was being released, they said, hey, we're going to release you for now. But if this whole thing blows over, we're going to bring you back. We're basically releasing you for PR reasons and shit like that. So I'm guessing that the release was because of that. We've seen other people being released and brought back, Emma and a few other people, when they are let go. Matt Hardy back in the day with the whole Edge and Lita stuff. A lot of people felt that Matt Hardy got wronged, but WWE just kind of let Matt Hardy go to let the whole thing blow over, and they brought him back when the fans made a big enough stink. So if Enzo is being completely screwed over here and he's totally innocent, I do believe the WWE will bring him back. The problem, though, is Enzo has got this history of bad behavior. He's a pain in the ass. He's got a shit ton of heat, and this was kind of like the last straw. And you combine that with the fact that he didn't even tell WWE about this investigation. They didn't know about it. And this was all the way back in October. Had he said something right away in October, maybe it could have been dealt with then and it wouldn't come out now, right when he's about to have a title match at the fucking Royal Rumble. He's currently holding a belt in the WWE, and Enzo put them in a horrible spot. So they're pissed and they fired him. So I'm actually kind of okay with that. Now, if it turns out that Enzo is innocent, I do believe they should bring him back. But considering everything that Enzo has done and said and the heat that he has and all this shit, this is just something that WWE didn't even need and didn't want, and they got rid of his ass. Now, the latest developments coming out of this is that this was consensual sex. This girl is kind of nuts. A lot of people have been checking her out on Twitter and on YouTube, and she seems really crazy. She's got really fucked up videos on her YouTube page, even one where she claims she faked a pregnancy. And then this guy comes out, apparently he's a friend of hers or something, and he releases some text message screenshots between him and her where she is bragging about sleeping with a wrestler, saying, yeah, there's a wrestler sleeping in bed with me right now. She's been very inconsistent in what she's saying. Even in her initial statement was filled with holes and inconsistencies, the biggest one being that she was drugged with cocaine and meth and weed, and she couldn't remember anything, and she was blacked out, and she was going into psychosis, and she couldn't even communicate or defend herself or anything, and has no idea what was going on. And then 2 sentences later, she's describing things that took place between her and Enzo in great detail, and when she's supposedly supposed to be blacked out, fucked up, wasted. So I'm really hoping, I said this in my Enzo video, by the way, I did release a video on the Enzo situation a couple of days ago when the news broke. The link is up in the top right-hand corner of the screen there. I mentioned in that video that I really hope that this girl is full of shit. I hope that she's completely nuts and a moron who winds up now going to jail herself for trying to personally fuck over someone's career and livelihood and reputation. And Enzo didn't have the greatest reputation to begin with, but I don't know if the guy is a rapist. And, I'm trying to remain completely neutral in this whole situation and just trying to judge it for what it is. If Enzo was guilty, then fuck him, put that idiot behind bars for the rest of his fucking life. But if this girl turns out to be a liar and she's trying to ruin Enzo's life, then put her dumb ass behind bars. Whoever the bad guy here is, I want them to pay. And my point in the video was that a lot of people were debating whether or not Enzo should have been released. And the biggest argument was, oh, what does that mean? Every time somebody's accused of something, they're going to be let go? And I was like, no, that's not what it means. How can you think that it means that? It's kind of a case-by-case situation, depends on the circumstances, depends on who's involved, and WWE made the decision in this particular case to let Enzo go. That doesn't mean if a similar situation happens with somebody else, that's automatically going to be the result. It's just the result in this case. And I was like, the fans need to stop directing their anger at WWE or at me for agreeing with WWE, but directing their anger to where it belongs. And that's with either Enzo for being a rapist or this girl for being a fucking lying bitch. And all I want to do is find out which one it is. And I'm really hoping that Enzo is innocent here. Judging from what we have all seen from this girl, she doesn't seem like the most trustworthy, believable person. She seems like somebody that lives a very tumultuous life, has got a lot of problems, a lot of personal issues, seems completely out of her mind a little bit. She's definitely got drug and alcohol problems. So there is a very good chance that she is completely full of shit and she's lying outright here. And if the police are now involved, they should be able to get to the bottom of that. The police can do their investigation and they will probably conclude, if I had to guess right now, just looking at the facts that we currently have right now, as of January 25th, 2018, I would say that Enzo is innocent in this, if I had to guess. Unless there's some big part of the story that we don't know about, I'm not seeing anything that automatically paints Enzo as guilty. I see Enzo living a stupid, idiotic life, going out on the road and partying and hooking up with disgusting girls, because this girl's kind of gross. And that's just who Enzo is. He's just one of these gross dudes. And if he's just getting fucked up and he's getting wasted with some girl and he hooks up with some gross ring rat, on the road, whatever. That's what wrestlers have been doing forever. If it was consensual, Enzo has every right to do that. The WWE locker room is full of freaks. We learned that a year ago when we had Paige riding the dick of Xavier Woods while Brad Maddox taped it while naked. So there's some kinky shit going on in the WWE locker room. If Enzo wants to go out and live this kind of life, I guess, aside from the drug part of it, he has every right to do that. He better be careful if he's in the same room with meth and coke, according to this girl. And if he's into any of that, he can get pinched with a wellness policy violation pretty quick. So he better be careful. But as long as Enzo is not doing any drugs and he's not doing anything illegal and he's just partying and hooking up with random girls, he's got every right to do that, whether you agree with it or not. It's his right. So what I'm hoping the situation here is he hooked up with the wrong chick. He hooked up with somebody that's completely out of their mind, and maybe he did do something that night that she didn't like. Enzo being a creep is totally logical. I don't think Enzo is a rapist. Being a creep, yeah. Remember when that stripper came out about him, a few months back and talked about what an idiot he was in the strip club and the way he was talking to her and bragging about his social media followers? He did the same thing to this girl, apparently, saying, you should want this dick. I've got over 1 million Instagram followers. I mean, that's just an immature thing to say. Jesus Christ. The way some people handle their fame just tickles me sometimes, and Enzo just kind of being like that and talking like that, I don't think he realizes how dumb he sounds. But again, it's not criminal. So what I think happened is that Enzo just partied a lot that night and hooked up with a skank, and now she's coming after him. If I had to guess, I could be completely wrong. Maybe Enzo is a rapist. Maybe he is. I guess in the end we will find out. But right now, based on what we have seen, I'm kind of thinking Enzo is innocent on this one. And I hope that he is, because I would be really disappointed if this guy, with all of his opportunities and the fame that he has and, being on TV and being a prominent player in WWE and making a good amount of money, he's going to piss it all away by raping, some drugged out girl. That's pretty fucking stupid. And I would like to think that even Enzo isn't that stupid. So anyway, that's the latest kind of on the Enzo situation. And I guess we'll just have to wait and see how this whole thing plays out. Now, he's a champion, don't forget, on 205 Live. He's the Cruiserweight champion. So there was kind of an interesting development on that side of things as well. Daniel Bryan came out and made an announcement on 205 Live. He did a backstage pre-tape, I believe, and he announced that Enzo has abdicated the Cruiserweight title. Didn't mention why, but Enzo was gone from 205 Live, gone from the Cruiserweight division, and no longer champion. And he didn't announce what's going to happen with the belt, but what he did announce is that 205 Live is going to get a GM. And you know what? That might be a good idea. I mean, we've all been talking about 205 Live and the horrible luck it's had and how the launching of the brand has been a complete disaster. One fucking thing after another with the Rich Swann stuff and now the Enzo stuff and Neville walking out. I mean, just shut it down, a lot of people are saying. But WWE feels that instead of shutting it down, why not try something else? And giving the show an authority figure could potentially help. And I agree. I mean, that might be a good idea. Have somebody come in, and now we get to speculate on who it will be. And I just hope it's not anybody stupid. I hope it's somebody with a cruiserweight background. And there's been a lot of names tossed around. Rey Mysterio's name has been brought up, although I've been reading reports about him negotiating with Impact or TNA or whatever, so he might be headed over there. But Rey Mysterio could be a candidate. Dean Malenko is another good one. He works backstage, right, as an agent, so he would be a perfect option. The problem, though, with Dean is even though he's got a lot of cruiserweight history from WCW, and he's an awesome wrestler. I don't know, on the mic, his charisma might be lacking a little bit, and I don't know what kind of an authority figure he could be. He hasn't been on TV, and he hasn't been in promo-cutting situations in a long time, and even when he wasn't that great. So I just don't know if he would be the right personality. He comes off as just a little bit boring, and I love Dean Malenko, but in an authority figure role, I don't know how good he will do. But he could be an option. Malenko. Also, Jamie Noble. Billy Kidman is another guy. Maybe Joey Mercury or something. And Rockstar Spud is another name being tossed around because he's been all over the place backstage in WWE in the past few weeks and months. And we know he's going to debut somewhere. But as an authority figure, I thought they might want him in the ring. I don't know. But he definitely could be one of the leading candidates to be the authority figure on 205 Live. And I guess we'll find out next week. And when we do, that GM is going to announce what the plans are for the Cruiserweight title. And I would guess they're going to do another tournament. Because the match at the Royal Rumble has been completely scrapped. There is no Cruiserweight title match at the Royal Rumble now, which kind of sucks. So the Enzo situation not only was a bad timing for him and him not mentioning anything to the WWE, but now they've had to remove a match from pay-per-view, from a Big Four pay-per-view that was advertised. And that's one of Vince McMahon's biggest no-nos. So I think a lot of that is why Enzo no longer has a job right now, because had WWE known about this, they could have dealt with it at the time, and then when the Royal Rumble came along, they wouldn't be in the situation where they have to scrap a match. So, yeah, it's kind of a fucked up situation. But I'm guessing next week, whoever the new GM turns out to be, he will announce a tournament of some kind. Maybe they can do another Cruiserweight Classic Part 2, or something like that to crown a new champion, kind of like a relaunching of the brand after they've had so many speed bumps and hiccups along the way. Maybe just completely hit the reset button, start over, do a brand new tournament, reintroduce everybody, have a new GM, I don't know, give the show a different look, or just breathe some life into it and see if it can take off. If not, then maybe consider shutting it down, getting rid of the disposable talent and keeping around the good stuff and incorporating them into the main roster is what I think they should do with 205 Live if this latest idea with the GM doesn't work. Let's move on to Monday Night Raw, 25th anniversary show this past Monday night on the USA Network. I came up and did a live review after Raw. It was a lot of fun. We talked a lot about the show, talked a lot about everything. I was up for 4 hours. I've got a link to that as well in the top right-hand corner if you want to check out some of my more elaborate thoughts on the 25th anniversary Raw. I'm just going to talk about some of the major issues with the show, the backlash now on the show not being very good. I was kind of all over the place in the live stream, and although I did review every single match on the show, I didn't talk about some of the major issues that have been coming to light. First of all, let's actually talk about the Manhattan Center. Because that, to me, was the best part of the show, was the look of the Manhattan Center, the way WWE recreated that, complete with the Raw siren, with the fucking Ico Pro banner. Everything was almost exactly the way it was. The only thing that was different was the big, LED screen or whatever that was hanging back behind the stage there, that I'm guessing the fans were watching the show at Barclays on, but some people are saying the fans didn't get to see anything that took place at Barclays, and the Manhattan Center crowd was not happy. Those tickets were extremely expensive. Anywhere from $500 to $1,000 were being paid for those seats, and they didn't get a whole lot of stuff. They only got the DX reunion, they got the Undertaker promo, they got Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt in like a 2-minute cruiserweight match. The fans were getting pissed. They were chanting bullshit. And for me, I can understand that if you pay $1,000 for a show, that you're going to expect a little bit more than what you got. But at the same time, I didn't know what they were expecting. I thought that it was announced that it was going to be like 2 hours from the Barclays and 1 hour from Manhattan Center. So I didn't really think the Manhattan Center crowd was going to get that much of a show to begin with. I thought it was mostly just the novelty of being there, being in the crowd, experiencing that, the little throwback episode was what they were paying for. And I know that's a steep price, don't get me wrong. I don't think I would have paid it. I would have much rather sat at home and watched it. But I feel for the people that forked out that much money expecting to get a lot more wrestling than what they got. So fans were pissed, and WWE didn't handle the Manhattan Center portion of Raw, I don't believe, very well. I mean, they handled the production of it well. I mean, it was so beautiful, the way that it was set up with the ring and the red, white, and blue ropes and all of that stuff. It looked amazing. But for the crowd, it was a lot of start and stop. They were very bored at times. Jerry the King Lawler and Jim Ross fucking fell asleep. There's a picture going all around Twitter right now of the two of them literally sleeping at the same time during the downtime when they were back at Barclays Center. So poor JR and Lawler had to sit there the whole time, and they're older now, and that's what old people do. They fall asleep. I think they should have given the fans something else. They should have, I don't know, they should have run matches while there was shit going on at the Barclays Center, or keep the fans on after and run some dark matches, or keep them on before, get them in the show early, and tape a couple of matches, and air them somewhere else on the network as like bonus matches or something like that, and give the fans something like that just to watch and just enjoy some wrestling. But I think it was just more of WWE wanting to have a presence in the Manhattan Center, and that was it. They didn't think about the fact that they're charging an arm and a leg for these tickets, and they might have some people pissed off. This is New York after all, and WWE should have prepared better for this situation at the Manhattan Center, in my opinion. And then the show itself, in its 3-hour entirety, was not that great either. They had a ton of people coming in, they had a ton of legends and a ton of cameos, but they were really all just pointless. They just lumped them all together. They did the spot backstage where they had Kurt Angle, Jonathan Coachman, Harvey Whippleman, Brooklyn Brawler, Teddy Long, Boogeyman, Brother Love, and they just kind of lumped them all together there. Later on, they brought out all the past GMs. They had Eric Bischoff and Teddy Long, John Laurinaitis, Daniel Bryan. They did the same thing with the women, paraded a bunch of women out there as well, including Maria Kanellis, Terry Runnels, Trish Stratus, who looked great, Michelle McCool, Kelly, who also looked amazing, Lillian Garcia, Jacqueline, so good to see her. And, my God, Tori Wilson, the one and only. We talked a lot about Tori Wilson in my live stream on Monday. I think she was by far everybody's favorite. And I've been saying that for months. I keep an eye on Tori Wilson and what she's been doing over the years. She's this, fitness guru, and she looks great. She looks every bit as good now at 40 as she did at 21. She's just incredible. My God. Oh, she is so hot. Pardon me while I just think about her for a minute. All right, let's move on. But as far as the women's segment goes, there was a lot of people bitching, and I was surprised at that. There was a lot of people saying, hey, where's this person? Where's that person? What the fuck? They didn't do nearly enough with the women, and that I'm almost willing to give a pass to, because we've got the Women's Royal Rumble coming up in just a couple of days. You want to have some surprises. You don't want to bring them all out on the 25th Raw, and then when you do have somebody like a Lita or somebody else come out, it's like, oh shit, nice. We didn't see them on Raw. It's nice to see them now instead. So I think WWE kind of, if I had to guess, considering we're probably going to have close to 10 women coming in as surprises in the Women's Royal Rumble, you didn't want to bring them all out on the 25th anniversary Raw. There was some story about Lita not getting invited or not even being allowed in or something like that. I don't know. I would think that Lita might make an appearance in the Royal Rumble. I would hope that she would. Beth Phoenix might be another fun name, Karma, and there's some other women that could come in, and I think that they probably will. So for the people to get that upset about the women's segment, I'm not that upset about it yet. If we go into the Royal Rumble and we don't see any major surprises, then yes, they left out a lot of women, and they should have done more with the women's segment, but, there's only so many women to go around. You want to bring out some for the 25th anniversary Raw, and you want to bring out some at the Royal Rumble. So if I had to guess, that's why the women's segment seemed like it was lacking. That's just my guess. That's just my opinion. I could be completely wrong about that, and I guess we will find out this Sunday. It was really good to see Christian as well doing a peep show with Jason Jordan and Seth Rollins. Would have loved to see Edge on the show as well with Christian, but I guess Edge and Beth weren't able to make the trip for whatever reason. We also didn't see Kevin Nash and Bret Hart due to, I think, some medical issues. So there was some names that we didn't get to see, but I think for what it was, we saw, a lot of good cameos. There was also the APA segments backstage where they lumped in a bunch more guys. We had the $1 Million Man, we had the Usos, we had MVP. Very cool to see MVP. Jeff Hardy was there. The New Day, Titus Worldwide, Natalia, and I don't know, maybe somebody else as well. Slater and Rhino, I believe, along with Bradshaw and Farouk. But those segments, again, it was much like the thing that they did backstage, and it was just kind of just a pointless bunch of cameos. I mean, which is fine. I mean, that's what it was there to be. That's the point of Raw, is just to bring back all these old names and all of these familiar faces. It was funny at the poker table, though. You had the Usos, and you had the $1 Million Man and Jeff Hardy. None of them were drinking any of the Miller Lights because I think $1 Million Man is very, very religious. You have Jeff Hardy, who's had his issues with drugs and alcohol before, and he's completely sober now. And the Usos, Jey Uso, of course, just got a DUI a couple of weeks ago in Texas. So it was funny to see everybody drinking but them. But I tried to do my best to appreciate these little segments for what they were. I know they weren't much. They were just cameo segments. That was it. There was no storyline attached to them. And just showing everybody's face on camera, I think, was the point. And I was almost willing to accept it at the time. I was so engulfed in Twitter and watching the show and preparing for my live stream during Raw that I don't think I realized how bad the show was. I didn't realize that it was so bad. I just thought it was cool to see Austin and Undertaker and Razor Ramon and all that shit. And in my head, it wasn't clicking that the show itself was not very good. And even with that opening segment with the McMahons and Austin, as cool as that was, and it was a nice nostalgia feel, it felt like I was in 1998 again. But when you have Vince McMahon out there healing on the crowd, you know Austin is coming out there to stun that bastard. So, 5 minutes before that glass shattered, I knew it was going to shatter. But still, it was a nice, feel-good moment. That's what I was trying to appreciate Raw for. But I agree with everybody who says the show was bad. It was. It definitely was bad. I think I was just so wrapped up in this nostalgia of it that I was not noticing. Because I remember Monday Night Raw. I watched the very first one. I've told this story before. I watched the very last Primetime Wrestling episode. I remember when Vince McMahon made the announcement that next week you're not going to see Primetime Wrestling. You're going to see Monday Night Raw. That was the first time I had heard of it. Because WWE wasn't promoting it, or at least I didn't see any advertisements for Raw prior to that night, and there was no internet, so you had no idea this was happening. And when Vince McMahon announced Raw, I was like, Raw, what the fuck is that? And I tuned in that first week, and I watched Shawn Michaels versus Max Moon and Yoko versus Coco and all those matches. And I've watched nearly every Raw since then. So for me, I've seen so many different eras of Monday Night Raw back in the day on the USA Network, when Raw would go off the air and then you'd watch the Silk Stockings intro and all of that. So those were the times that I loved the most. And that's why I was just so just amazed by the Manhattan Center and the look and the feel of it. And I wish I would have been there just to be in that environment. But if I paid $1,000, I might be a little bit pissed off too. So it wasn't until I kind of looked back at the show this week that I realized how truly kind of bad that it was. Probably the happiest news coming out of Monday Night Raw was the Intercontinental title match between Roman Reigns and The Miz. The Miz did win back the Intercontinental title. We had a feeling he would. This was kind of an interesting match too. I mean, he did cheat, but he didn't cheat as much as I thought he would. The only thing that happened was that he tore off the middle turnbuckle pad in one of the corners, and Roman Reigns went for a spear and hit his face on it, and allowed The Miz to hit Roman with the skull-crushing finale and got the pin. And I thought it was going to take more cheating than that. I mean, Bo Dallas and Axel were out there as well, but, in the end, I thought it was going to take everybody and their mother to get Roman Reigns' shoulders down for a 3 count, but instead it just took exposed turnbuckle to the forehead to do in Roman Reigns, which is kind of crazy because those Samoans are supposed to have rock-hard skulls. Every single Samoan is supposed to be completely impervious to head trauma, and I think Roman Reigns should have kicked out of that, but he lost. The Miz has got the Intercontinental title back, which makes everybody happy, I think, although now all of the fans can be nervous that Roman Reigns is going to win the Royal Rumble or go on to WrestleMania to beat Brock, which I'm sure he will, but just as long as he doesn't win the Royal Rumble, that's all I really care about. I do not want to see that Philly crowd go through that again, and we'll talk about the Royal Rumble here in just a minute. But for the time being now, The Miz has got the Intercontinental title back around his waist, and hopefully have a big-time match with somebody at WrestleMania. Hopefully it's a big title match, whoever he winds up working with. Aside from that, on Monday Night Raw, I liked the run-in between Chris Jericho and Elias, the brief run-in backstage. I thought that was kind of cool. Really cool to see Jericho there right off the heels of his big Wrestle Kingdom 12 match with Kenny Omega. The Brock Lesnar, Braun Strowman, and Kane segment was stupid. Again, it's one of these things that is just adding nothing to the match. They've had some good segments. Last week was pretty good. The week before was pretty good when Braun tore down the Raw set on top of everybody or whatever. But now it's like all they did was have a brawl between the three of them. Kurt Angle brings a ton of backup out to the ring. And when I say backup, I mean all of the legends that were making cameos on the show. Fucking Brother Love and Harvey Whippleman and guys like that are going to pull apart Brock Lesnar and Braun Strowman. Are you kidding me? And after everything that's been going on, especially last week with Strowman nearly destroying Monday Night Raw, Kurt Angle's going to call these guys out to the ring to have a confrontation? What are you, fucking nuts? So he did that. Everybody fights. Braun Strowman puts Brock Lesnar through a table with a power slam on the outside of the ring. And it was just lackluster. I'm just glad it's over. I'm glad the build to this shit is over. Braun Strowman has made this build and this feud somewhat bearable just because he's so goddamn badass. But aside from that, seeing these three gorillas in the ring wrestling for a title, I'm not interested in it. And I just don't think the match is going to be much. And I'll get into my prediction on that here in just a little bit. The DX reunion in the Manhattan Center was also kind of fun. By then, the fans were getting kind of antsy and upset. What I liked about it is that they brought out the Balor Club, and there was, instead of a confrontation, we got everybody doing the click symbol. That was pretty awesome. I do have to say that, because you know that DX and the NWO, they had a big influence on the Bullet Club, and all those guys used the click symbol, and to see all those guys in the ring in the Manhattan Center doing it together, I thought that was pretty cool, especially with Shawn Michaels there. He wrestled in that first ever Raw against Max Moon. You had the 1-2-3 Kid out there, and they even brought out Scott Hall, who came out to Razor Ramon's music, which damn near made me cry. I mentioned in my live stream that I think Billy Gunn worked the Manhattan Center as part of the Smoking Guns, and I think Road Dogg may have, when they went back there for a taping in 1997, Road Dogg might have had a match on that card. So the only DX guy out there that never wrestled in the Manhattan Center, I believe, was Triple H. And how cool was it that Triple H gave Chyna a shout out? I thought that was kind of telling, because we've been speculating on Chyna going into the Hall of Fame. This is a big year for women. We have the first ever Women's Royal Rumble. This would be the perfect year to put Chyna into the Hall of Fame. And with Triple H mentioning her name, and Rick Rude's name, which was also cool. Rude, I do believe, did go in, but Rude had all that bad blood the way he showed up on Nitro and walked out on WWE. For Triple H to shout out not only Rude, but also Chyna, warmed my heart. And I hope that means that Chyna will go into the Hall of Fame this year. And it's possible that she will. And if she does, Triple H should induct her. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if he did. It's got to be a little bit awkward for him and Stephanie to have to discuss this situation. But maybe they're kind of lightening their stance a little bit on Chyna ever since Triple H made that ridiculous comment on Stone Cold's podcast about how he doesn't want his kids Googling Chyna's name. Well, they can also Google Sonny's name, and they're going to see things just as bad, if not worse, when you Google that crazy bitch's name. So I think it's time to put the ninth wonder of the world in the Hall of Fame, and I hope this is the year. And Triple H's shout out could be a little hint that that's actually going to happen. And seeing, like I said, seeing 1-2-3 Kid and Scott Hall out there was also cool. They all wound up beating the shit out of the Revival, and I called that out the week before when the Revival cut a promo in the ring running down all past legends and shit like that, especially from the Attitude Era. And I'm like, well, you know, a bunch of people are going to kick their asses on the 25th anniversary Raw, and that's exactly what happened there. So that's pretty much Raw in a nutshell, aside from the Undertaker situation. The matches that we saw on the show weren't that great, other than the Intercontinental title match. Nothing that major really came out of any of the matches. The Undertaker promo is arguably the most disappointing or confusing part of this show. I mean, The Undertaker came out in the Manhattan Center, which was cool. I liked the fact that he came out there. I liked that they didn't even turn the lights off when he came out to the ring, which was interesting because they turned them off for Bray, but not The Undertaker. So Undertaker came out super old school. You even had Howard Finkel introduce The Undertaker, which I can't remember who told me. I think I was, I tweeted something about it. I'm like, holy shit, the Fink is announcing The Undertaker. And somebody responded saying that the Fink wasn't even in the building. So that was either pre-recorded or he was like behind the curtain or something like that. So really weird that Fink wasn't actually out there. So I guess that makes it a little bit less special. But I remember when I heard him announce The Undertaker, I'm like, wow, that just sounds so great to hear. But as far as what The Undertaker said, he didn't say shit. We thought we were going to get this big promo. We thought we were going to get a WrestleMania angle kicked off here. A lot of speculation about John Cena and The Undertaker. Cena wound up doing something at the Barclays Center with Elias. Cena had nothing to do with The Undertaker, and it looks like he's going to be set up now to have a match with Elias somewhere down the line because he got beat up and took a guitar shot from him. So maybe we'll get that on next week's post-Rumble Raw. I don't know where they're going to do that match, and I don't know where John Cena and The Undertaker are going to fit together if, in fact, they are going to have a match at WrestleMania. The Undertaker's promo made it sound like he's not retiring and he's retiring at the same time. There was a few things that he said that kind of hinted to him being done. Talked about all of the souls that he's buried and the legends that he's defeated, and there comes a time where everybody has to rest in peace. So what does that mean? Is that a warning or is that a retirement? Even Jim Ross mentioned it could possibly be a warning. So I think based on what we've read, the plan is still to do Taker versus John Cena. They've got some time to put that together. Maybe they wanted to put Undertaker out on Raw just to give everybody a chance to see him again in the Manhattan Center where he worked on that very first Raw, and they really weren't using this appearance to further any angle. Maybe they wanted to keep the fans guessing, so when Undertaker does show up, either at the Royal Rumble or Elimination Chamber is another very good possibility, that it comes as a little bit more of a surprise, but I've remained steadfast in my position. I do not want The Undertaker to wrestle again. I think he needs to be done. I have no interest in seeing him wrestle John Cena at WrestleMania. Every single year he looks worse and is older and slower, and I just don't think he's going to really have a good match. He did look pretty good in the Manhattan Center, I will say that. He looked to be in good shape, or as good a shape as someone like him can be in at his age and his current physical condition, but still, I just don't think that you should do this match. It's you missed the boat. The timing was off. We didn't get it because of Cena's injury a couple of years ago, and let it go. We didn't get Undertaker Sting either. The fans can live without Undertaker and John Cena. So I don't know what the motivation here is for The Undertaker to get back in the ring, if he in fact is going to get back in the ring. But I have a feeling we're going to see The Undertaker again, and he revealed to us nothing as far as what his plans are in the promo. It came off as confusing as fuck, and nobody understood what the hell he even said. But I tried to do my best just to appreciate seeing him. Good to see The Undertaker always, even though I don't want to see him wrestle again in the ring. Just to see him out there in the ring cutting a promo was at least kind of nice for the 25th anniversary Raw. But I guess we'll find out. He's going to reappear somewhere, either on Raw, either at the Rumble, either at the next pay-per-view, I would guess, and set up something, supposedly, with John Cena. But like I've said time and time again, if it was up to me, I wouldn't do that match at all. Before I get into my Royal Rumble and NXT predictions, why don't we briefly run down the Go Home SmackDown Live? This show was okay, but not great. Neither one of these Go Home shows were anything that special. But the big match on SmackDown was AJ Styles taking on Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn in back-to-back matches. This was set up in the opening promo, where the three of them are going back and forth, and Sami Zayn then suggests that AJ take on Owens and himself in back-to-back matches. And Daniel Bryan then comes out there and actually makes it official when AJ was like, fine, I'll fucking do it. Which caused Shane McMahon to question Daniel Bryan's decision-making again. Really kind of tense exchange backstage between the two of them, and Daniel Bryan was like, hey, I wasn't even going out there to make those matches. I was going to refuse it. It was AJ that insisted that I do it, so I agreed or whatever. But still a lot of issues with Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon, and every single week it looks more and more likely that we're going to see these two guys wrestle at WrestleMania, and I think something big is going to go down at the Royal Rumble. I think with the rumors of Daniel Bryan being in the Royal Rumble, I think Shane McMahon might be in the Rumble too. I think Kurt Angle might be in the Rumble. What if it's Daniel Bryan and Kurt Angle? Last two guys, the two GMs. What if it's Kurt Angle, Daniel Bryan, and Shane McMahon? Who the fuck knows what they're going to do? But the tension between Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan is getting more intense with each passing week, and eventually this is going to boil over, and these two guys are going to fight somewhere, or have some sort of a breakup, or Daniel Bryan's going to get fired, or something like that's going to happen eventually to set up something between these two, you would guess. But in the final two matches, you had AJ Styles taking on Kevin Owens first. He made Owens tap out. Owens tapped out immediately, which I liked. As soon as AJ put Owens in the calf crusher, he was tapping out, which makes sense in storyline. You don't want to break your leg right before you go in to the Royal Rumble match against AJ Styles for the title. Now, both guys, Owens and Zayn, that is, were threatening AJ Styles in the opening segment, saying not only are we going to beat you in matches, but we're going to hurt you. And then AJ Styles turned that over on them and says, not only am I going to beat you two fuckers, I'm going to hurt you too. So after Owens taps out, AJ keeps the calf crusher on, tries to tear off Kevin Owens' leg. Sami Zayn then attacks, and that match starts right away. Sami and AJ start fighting, and as the medical staff is attending to Owens outside the ring, AJ keeps going after him. He kicks him in the face. Eventually they get Kevin Owens on a stretcher. AJ tips over the stretcher. And during the whole time of him being hell-bent on injuring Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn is able to catch him with his finisher kick in the corner and actually pin AJ Styles, which is good because for momentum's sake, I want to see AJ Styles retain the title. And if AJ beats both of them in back-to-back matches and then beats him at the Royal Rumble, that's usually not the way things go. So Sami Zayn got the pinfall victory over AJ Styles. I feel much more confident now that AJ will retain the belt at the Royal Rumble, and I hope that he does because I am not interested in seeing this co-champion bullshit. Every time they've tried this, I've always hated it, and I have no interest in seeing it with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. We had a pretty good one-on-one match, too, between Chad Gable and Jey Uso. Jey Uso, of course, is coming off the heels of that DUI that he got, and a lot of speculation as to what his punishment will be, or if WWE is going to take the belts off of the Usos at the Royal Rumble. We don't know. But Gable beat Uso clean in this match. Maybe that was his punishment. And Chad Gable continues to impress. I say that every single week. He has got some amazing moves, and I think eventually he should break away from Shelton Benjamin and go heel. I see this guy getting over. He's so amazing in the ring. He's so fucking quick, and he's so goddamn strong, too, for a little guy, and he's not horrible on the mic, and I just think there is a shit ton of potential for Chad Gable, and I see big, big things in his future. I might be wrong, but just every time I watch him on TV, I'm like, this kid's got it. So his size is the only thing that's going to hold him down, but these days in 2018 professional wrestling, size usually doesn't matter. If you're good, they'll put the belt on you no matter how big or small you are. Just don't put this guy on the cruiserweight division is all I ask. I would love to see a Chad Gable versus Neville match next year at WrestleMania for the Intercontinental title. Holy shit, could you imagine that? We also had Nakamura versus Baron Corbin. Nakamura won this match by DQ when Randy Orton came out of nowhere and hit Nakamura with an RKO, and then RKO'd Baron Corbin for good measure, too. So I'm not sure why Randy Orton did that. I guess it's just Royal Rumble time, and this time of year, everybody attacks everyone, and I guess that was the point. I really liked the segment with Bobby Roode and the New Day. That was fun, having the New Day announce or introduce the new U.S. champion Bobby Roode to the ring. They had a really funny exchange on the mic, and as much as I'm impressed with Chad Gable, I am equally as impressed with Big E. This motherfucker is so goddamn hilarious, I cannot stand it. Did you see what he was doing on Monday Night Raw? Just dancing on the ring apron when Kurt Angle was coming out to the ring? I mean, this guy is unbelievably funny, and one of my favorite personalities in WWE. I fucking love Big E. And you had him and Rusev in the same match on SmackDown, which is just like double the fun. It was a 6-man with a New Day and Bobby Roode taking on Rusev, Aiden English, and Jinder Mahal. And New Day and Bobby Roode won that match, not surprising there. And again, we got to wait for Dolph Ziggler's return. Bobby Roode is the champion now. Whatever he's going to do in the future at the Royal Rumble, at the next pay-per-view, at some point you got to think that Dolph Ziggler is going to return, and maybe we get that ladder match at WrestleMania. It's looking like a pretty big possibility right now. I believe we also had Naomi defeating Liv Morgan. That's a match I didn't even see. I never want to see my sister get beat, so I didn't watch it. That is pretty much it for SmackDown. So yeah, that was your go-home show. They set up everything there for the Royal Rumble on their end. Raw did so on their end. And now we're coming up to one of my favorite pay-per-views of the year in just a couple of days. On Sunday, and I'm excited for it. So before I predict the Royal Rumble, let's run through the NXT TakeOver card. Now, these are the matches that I have. Just announced that I saw late last night, Cassius Ohno and Velveteen Dream are going to be wrestling in a one-on-one match. I think I'm going to go with Velveteen Dream in that. You've got Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly defending the NXT Tag Team titles against the Authors of Pain. I think you got to keep the belts on Fish and O'Reilly at this point. Authors of Pain, I think, have run their course in NXT. I think you should think about moving them up to the main roster real soon. Adam Cole versus Aleister Black in an Extreme Rules match. This is good. This is going to be fucking good. Goddamn. But now, you guys correct me if I'm wrong. Aleister Black, is he undefeated in singles? I think he's lost maybe a 4-way, right? But he has not lost in singles yet. I think this needs to be his loss. I fucking love that guy. I think he's so amazing, and I think he's ready right now for the main roster. And given that this is WrestleMania time, I think you need to start setting up the debut of Aleister Black on the main roster. I think they should wait until WrestleMania, because the night after WrestleMania, you got to have at least one big name debut or one big call-up, and he's probably the biggest name in NXT right now as far as a guy that everybody wants to see on the main roster. So I think you can hold this off, give him a loss here, have him have a couple of more matches, one more TakeOver match before he comes to the main roster, and then make his debut. I don't know if I see him showing up in the Royal Rumble. Somebody on Twitter mentioned that to me. What about Aleister Black being in the Royal Rumble? Don't get me wrong, I would love to see that, but he's having an Extreme Rules match the night before. So if he came into the Royal Rumble, you would think that in storyline he's not 100%. He'll probably be tossed out rather quickly. And then it almost like ruins his appeal or mystique or something like that. I think you should only have a guy like him come in if he's going to win it, and I don't see that happening. I mean, it would be cool if they had an NXT guy come in and win the Royal Rumble. I certainly wouldn't complain. But given the fact that he's going to be killing himself the night before on pay-per-view, I don't know. I don't know if it would make sense for him to come in and win the Royal Rumble or not. But I think he needs to be up on the main roster either before WrestleMania or the night after. So in the next couple of months, we should see him. So maybe losing a match here to Adam Cole on NXT is a good place to do his big first loss. And on top of that, it's an Extreme Rules match, so we can see Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish get involved in this thing. That's very likely. And I think the match is going to be really good and really fun. But I'm picking Adam Cole. I could be wrong. I'm not much of an NXT watcher. I only kind of eyeball it. But based on what I've seen, I might go with Cole in that match. You also have Ember Moon versus Shayna Baszler. Now, Shayna Baszler is another one. How many matches has she had? One or two or something? I can't even remember. I think I saw one match when she debuted in NXT. Took her a while to get there after the women's tournament. Kairi Sane, of course, is already there. And she's got that, MMA fighter type of gimmick. And now she's getting a title shot already. Is it just me or is this early? I mean, what am I missing here? You guys know NXT better than I do. I'm really surprised that they're doing this match right now. But if they are, and Shayna Baszler is this MMA type of fighter, don't you have to have her win the belt here? I mean, I know Ember Moon kind of just recently won it as well, and she hasn't been off to that long of a run yet. But, what do you do with Baszler if she loses here is my only question. So I'm kind of wondering, especially with Ronda Rousey being rumored to come in, maybe making an appearance in the Royal Rumble, you need to start building future opponents for Rousey. She's got a bunch right now. She's got Charlotte. She's got Asuka. She even has Stephanie. Some people have been talking about a Rousey-Stephanie match. That was set up a couple of years ago at WrestleMania. But in the future, I think you need some more dominant females to work with Rousey if she does in fact come into WWE and becomes a success there. So this could be the beginning of, building and making Shayna Baszler. So I'm going to go out on a crazy limb here and say that she's going to win the belt, even though she's brand spanking new in NXT and Ember Moon has worked so hard to finally get her hands on that title. I could be way off of my prediction here, but part of me just thinks that Baszler's going to win. So we'll have to wait and see there. And then, of course, the NXT title match, Andrade Cien Almas taking on Johnny Gargano, who won that big fatal four-way number one contenders match a few weeks ago, which was awesome. And again, I don't know the situation. You guys have got to let me know here. What is the deal with Tommaso Ciampa? They broke up at that one takeover a while back. I know he got injured right after that, and they were never even able to have that match or that blow-off or that feud. Does he make an appearance here and interfere in this match and cost Gargano the match? Andrade Cien Almas has also kind of recently become NXT champion. He's made a lot of improvements, and I think WWE might want to run with his title run a little bit longer. And since Gargano still has an unresolved issue with his former tag team partner, they could set something up here based on Ciampa's physical condition, whether or not he can go, if he's been cleared, if he's healthy, if he's healed. I really have no idea the guy's status. If he makes an appearance in this match, costs Gargano the match, they can do a match at the TakeOver the night before WrestleMania, which would be awesome because we've waited a long time to get that. So right now, I'm going to pick Andrade Cien Almas to retain the title. So the only new champion I have picked for this show is Shayna Baszler, and I don't even know if I'm missing a match. I have. That is 5 matches. Am I missing one? You guys can tell me. I went to WWE.com to check out the card, and this is what they have. So if I'm missing one, I apologize. But you know me in NXT. I can barely keep up with that shit. Now we can move on to the Royal Rumble. Time to predict this pay-per-view. Well, let's start out with the tag team title matches. We've got 2 of them. On the SmackDown side, we've got Chad Gable and Shelton Benjamin taking on the Usos. Now, I would be inclined to pick Gable and Benjamin here because of Jey Uso's DUI, because of Gable and Benjamin recently turning heel. You would think that all of those factors, taken into account, that Gable and Benjamin should probably win the tag team titles here just for the good of the storyline and the good of their heel turn. But I don't know. I think I'm going to go with the Usos to retain. I think a lot of people are probably predicting Gable and Benjamin because of what happened to Jey Uso, but he job cleaned to Gable on SmackDown, so maybe the Usos can find a way to retain their titles at the Royal Rumble. But I do think we're going to see a title change on Raw. I think Cesaro and Sheamus are going to win back the belts from Jason Jordan and Seth Rollins. Something just tells me they are. I want this alliance between Jordan and Seth to end. I like Jason Jordan being the clueless idiot. I find that fun. I find that entertaining, and they can still run with that further if they retain here, but I still think Jordan can maintain that character even if they lose. And he can do something stupid in the match to cost them the belt, and then maybe the next night on Raw, they do a rematch. They invoke the rematch clause right away, and Seth says to Jordan, look, what you pulled last night, you can't do that shit again. We got to stay focused here. We got to win our belts back. And then they lose the rematch, and then you have the implosion in the fight, and it sets up one-on-one Seth Rollins and Jason Jordan down the line. That's what I'm kind of guessing. I could be wrong there. I do think one of the tag team titles is going to change hands. So I'm kind of picking the Raw tag team title to be our switch, and I think we're going to have Usos retain on the SmackDown side. But again, I could be wrong. So the Usos to retain and the Bar to win the tag team titles on Raw. AJ Styles versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn in a handicap match for the WWE title. I talked about this earlier on. I just think AJ needs to retain here. He's been so impressive since coming into the WWE a couple of years ago, made his debut at the Royal Rumble 2 years ago, and has been thrust into the main event spotlight ever since. And he's ran with it. They gave him the ball, and he fucking ran for 10 touchdowns. The guy is fucking incredible. So I think he needs and deserves to go into WrestleMania to defend the title one-on-one against somebody. Hopefully the winner of the Royal Rumble. But if not, somebody else. Whatever the case is, I think AJ needs to be the guy holding the WWE title at WrestleMania, because on the Raw side of things, you're probably going to have Brock Lesnar. So I am picking AJ to find a way to retain against Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. I think Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan are both going to get involved here. I think a major implosion between Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon could take place here. You know, Shane comes out and tries to help, and then Daniel comes out to thwart those efforts or whatever, and then eventually they get in each other's faces. Maybe there's some pushing, maybe there's some shoving. Maybe Shane McMahon is so pissed off after Owens and Zayn win the title or something that he gets on the mic and publicly fires Daniel Bryan, and then Daniel Bryan appears in the Royal Rumble. So Owens and Zayn winning could lead to that, but at the end of the day, I don't want to see that happening. I don't want to see a co-champion not this close to WrestleMania during a middle part of the year or a downtime of the year when nobody gives a fuck. Fine, do co-champions, who cares? But right now, during WrestleMania time, I want that belt to have as much prestige as possible, and AJ gives that belt a ton of credibility. He's an amazing worker, and I respect the shit out of what he can do in the ring, despite the fact that he thinks the earth is flat. So I think AJ should go into Mania and defend the belt, so I'm picking him to retain. I'm also picking Brock to retain. I don't think we're going to see either world title change hands at the Royal Rumble, and I don't really want to see it. I mean, that's kind of weird. Normally, as fans, we hope for title changes, but I don't want to see either guy lose the belt here. I think AJ and Brock, the two guys that tore the house down at Survivor Series together, should go into WrestleMania as champs on their respective brands. So whatever happens with Brock Lesnar, Kane, and Braun Strowman, I think Brock should retain. I don't know if Triple H is going to get involved. Maybe they want to keep Braun Strowman strong. We remember what took place between Braun and Triple H after Survivor Series. So maybe Braun Strowman has got the match won and Triple H shows up and fucks him out of the title or something like that, setting up Braun Strowman and Triple H at WrestleMania, which I don't even know if I want to see, but at least it avoids Brock destroying Strowman again like he did back in September or whenever it was. So by hook or crook, I think Brock is going to come out of this match with the title, as well he should, and go on to WrestleMania to face, most likely, Roman Reigns. Let's move on to the Women's Royal Rumble now, of course. We have all of the current roster members involved in this thing, with the exception of Paige, who, of course, is injured, and we've got about 10 open slots for surprises. One of the big surprises rumored to be in this Royal Rumble is Ronda Rousey. And when you look at who they have competing in this thing other than potentially Rousey, you got to go with Asuka here. I mean, Asuka has been undefeated for 3 years. Nobody can touch her. I mean, unless everybody gangs up on her and throws her out, 20 women throw her out, Andre the Giant style or something. That's the only way you're going to get Asuka out of there, unless Rousey comes in and tosses her out, setting up a WrestleMania match between the two of them. You also have Stephanie McMahon on commentary for this thing. She announced that she will sit in on the commentary team during the Women's Royal Rumble. Don't know how I feel about that. I mentioned on Twitter that I would rather listen to Booker T with a mouthful of peanut butter than to listen to Stephanie fucking commentate during this match. But maybe it's possible that she does a Jerry Lawler type of entrance into the Royal Rumble, and she's sitting there doing commentary, and then her music plays, and she takes off the headset and she rips off her dress to reveal wrestling gear, and she gets in the ring and she starts tossing bitches out, and maybe she's the last one in the ring, and number 30 is Ronda Rousey, and comes out, kicks her ass, and throws her outside over the top rope, and Rousey goes on to WrestleMania to face, I don't know, maybe Charlotte for the title. So I got to predict a winner in this thing, right? Am I really crazy enough to predict an outsider to win this thing? I mean, aside from Asuka, when I look at the roster, I would love to see it be, you know, Sasha or Bayley or Becky Lynch would be great. I'd be fine with that. But again, we've seen all of these women. They've already had runs with the belt. You know, you want something that you're going to remember here. The first ever Royal Rumble for the women cannot be a debacle like the Money in the Bank. It cannot be Stephanie winning or James Ellsworth pulling down the briefcase. It can't be something stupid. It needs to be something memorable. So Steph, even if she's in this thing, she better not fucking win it, because that would be a disgrace. But if it turns out to be Rousey, I mean, that would be something that we would never forget. The first ever Royal Rumble winner would be Ronda Rousey. The thing there is, though, WWE is really putting a lot on Rousey. You know, they're putting a lot of eggs into that basket to have her being the person to look back on in the record books as being the first ever Women's Royal Rumble winner. And then she comes onto the main roster and her wrestling career never takes off and she's out of the business in 2 years. Then it's a mistake. So I don't know. That's why I'm tempted to predict Asuka, but you know, Asuka, based on her win-loss record, she should be getting a title match. She doesn't need the Royal Rumble to get a title match. She should already be getting title matches. So part of me thinks that Asuka doesn't need to win it because she's already title contender worthy based on her undefeated record for fucking 1,200 days or whatever it is. So I'm going to go out on a crazy limb here, the farthest limb out in the fucking world, and I'm going to predict that Ronda Rousey wins the Royal Rumble. Call me crazy, that's what I think. I still think we can see Trish in there. I think we can see Beth Phoenix in there. We might still see Lita come back. We might see Karma. Who am I leaving out? I know I'm leaving out a ton of women. Anybody that you can think of, I'm sure, provided that they're healthy, there's a really good chance that they will be in the Royal Rumble competing. Maybe Eve Torres. I don't know, Candice Michelle. Maybe not Candice Michelle, but maybe Eve Torres would be another one. Caitlyn is another name that's been tossed around. So there's some girls that we could see back, and I'd be fine with that. But as far as whoever wins it, you know, you would think that with the women's evolution and the women's revolution and all of that, you should give the victory to a current roster member. That would be the right thing to do in the fans' mind and in my mind too. You know, give it to Becky, give it to Sasha, give it to whoever the fuck. But just for the impact of the first Women's Rumble, just for what we remember it for, I think having an outside name winning might be fun. And hopefully won't be too rejected by the fans. So I'm probably completely wrong on my Ronda Rousey idea. But, you know, aside from Asuka, I just can't pinpoint anybody as a clear-cut winner. Unless it turns out to be Nikki Bella or something like that. Nikki Bella is another very good option to not only be in this Royal Rumble, but win it. But I don't know if I want to see that either. You know, I just think that would get a ton of boos from the fans. I think they would shit on it. This is Philly, don't forget. And they don't like people like John Cena and Roman Reigns there. And they certainly don't like the girl that John Cena is fucking who, quote unquote, can't wrestle. So I think Nikki would be a bad idea. You know, as much as I love her, I think it would be a bad idea. The crowd would reject that. So I'm going with Rousey. Why not? Let's be fun, right? No reason. I don't care if I'm right or wrong on any of my predictions. I just like to sometimes go out on a limb, and that's a big fucking limb. So Ronda Rousey will be your 2018 Women's Royal Rumble winner. As far as the Men's Rumble goes, I mentioned all of the possible surprises in this thing over the weeks as well. Just a little while ago, I mentioned the possibility of not only Daniel Bryan, whose Vegas betting odds has gone way up and was even the favorite to win the Royal Rumble there for a short time. He could be in this thing along with Kurt Angle, along with Shane McMahon. We could see Triple H in this thing. I think we could see Chris Jericho. He was on the 25th anniversary Raw. We could see Chris Jericho come in, and I swear it would be so cool to see Omega come in. Kenny Omega would get the pop like AJ Styles got a couple of years ago. Imagine if Jericho was in the ring and he tosses somebody out and he's the last guy in the ring, like in the middle of the match, and he's just laying there all by himself, and then Omega's music hits and he comes out and they start brawling with each other for a few minutes. It could just be a one-off. I think if it was, the fans would be disappointed that we got to see Omega for 5 minutes in the WWE and then he's gone. But maybe Jericho worked some magic, pulled some strings, and got WWE to agree to bring him in and making a surprise appearance in the Royal Rumble. The Undertaker is another guy. We saw what he said on Monday Night Raw. Made absolutely no sense. Confused the fuck out of all of us. But he could easily appear in this thing as well. John Cena is in the Rumble. Maybe that's where they kick off their WrestleMania program. I don't know. We got to pick a winner, right? I've been saying all along that I think a SmackDown guy should win the Royal Rumble. Shinsuke Nakamura would be the best pick there because if you put Shinsuke versus AJ at WrestleMania, that could be a Wrestle Kingdom quality match. WWE surely has got to see the success of that type of wrestling over there in Japan and the type of shit the fans like to see. And they brought in a lot of those workers from over there over the years. And to give the fans a match like that, especially on the same card where Roman Reigns could potentially win the WWE title from Brock Lesnar, and the fans are going to hate that, this could be a nice consolation prize. Just a great one-on-one wrestling contest between AJ and Nakamura. But again, is Nakamura really that over on the SmackDown brand? Has his time on the roster since coming up from NXT been a success? I think the majority of the people would say no. So, you know, if you're going to have a surprise entrant win in the Women's Royal Rumble, I don't think you need to have a surprise in the men's, like an NXT call-up winning the Royal Rumble or something like that. I think it's got to be somebody who's currently on the roster, and based on who's in this Royal Rumble, aside from John Cena winning it, because he does have to break Ric Flair's record for most title wins at some point, and I think maybe he'll do that at SummerSlam. I had him pegged to get that victory back from Roman Reigns at some point, so if Roman Reigns wins the Universal title from Brock Lesnar, he can drop it to Cena at SummerSlam, and Cena, who's never held the Universal title before, now has yet another belt on his resume, and that's the belt that he breaks Ric Flair's record with. So that's a very big possibility. I would like to see them hold off on John Cena getting a title match until the summer. So I kind of want to rule out John Cena winning this thing as well. So I think I'm going to go with a lame answer on this one. It's only because I've been mentioning it week after week for the past 3 months. I might as well stick with it. I'm going with Shinsuke Nakamura. I've got a strong feeling I'm wrong. I think WWE's going to pull a swerve on us. It would be really cool if it was Daniel Bryan. How fucking awesome would that be? To have Daniel Bryan go into WrestleMania to face AJ Styles, but that doesn't make a whole lot of sense because Daniel Bryan's got this whole program going on right now with Shane McMahon. So I think Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon are going to have some serious issues with each other at the Royal Rumble, whether it be in the WWE title match with AJ Owens and Zayn, or whether it be in the Royal Rumble, wherever it is. I think the angle between those two and the match between those two should kick off somewhere during the Royal Rumble. But don't forget, Roman Reigns is also in this thing as well. Whenever you get Roman Reigns out of there, whenever you eliminate him, it's got to be a big deal. I just don't know. I mean, this is in Philly, don't forget. So WWE, they can't be that stupid. Can they really do that? Do you really think they would be crazy enough to fucking give Roman Reigns the victory again in Philadelphia? That crowd is, you want to see a riot, that might actually do it. So, but luckily, just the way the pay-per-views and everything is set up leading into WrestleMania, a Raw guy winning the Rumble, to me, doesn't make sense, because if he does, what the fuck is the Elimination Chamber for? That must mean Brock is going to have to defend the belt in the Chamber, which I just don't see Brock doing. I just don't. He could. But other than that, you know, that match either has to be for a title or for a number one contender spot, nothing else. So to me, it just makes the most sense for SmackDown to win the Rumble. So I'm going with Shinsuke Nakamura. There you go. You guys let me know all of your predictions for the Royal Rumble for NXT TakeOver and all of your opinions on everything that I discussed in this podcast. Don't forget, I will be up here immediately following the Royal Rumble with a live review on YouTube. So stay tuned to my YouTube channel for that, and follow me on Twitter at GoodMicWork throughout all day Sunday. I will be home from sunup to sundown, sitting in front of my computer, talking about the Royal Rumble. We'll discuss NXT. You guys can ask me questions, and I'll interact all day long with you guys, and hopefully watch some good wrestling. So you guys take care, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I will catch you on Sunday night after the Royal Rumble. Until then, peace.